Hi everyone, tonight we're going to sink slowly into the thick perfume fog of a city that never promised you a future, but still found a way to take it. Picture this. It's 1875. The harbor smells like salt, coal, smoke, and wet rope. You're stepping off a crowded steamer into the most dangerous thing a desperate man can feel hope. You're not a soldier or a banker or anyone anyone's ever heard of. You're just someone with a battered satchel, a head full of bad ideas, and a smile that won't last the week. You've come to Colonial Shanghai thinking it might give you something, maybe reinvention, maybe money, maybe just a version of yourself you haven't had to meet yet. But this city doesn't give, it absorbs. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know, where are you listening from? And what time is it right now? I read every comment from my fellow night drifters. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. The first thing you notice is how loud the docks are. It's like arriving inside someone else's fever dream voices in 5 languages, steam rising in curls from every surface, and a smell that defies classification. Fish, mud, smoke, and something sharp that might be urine, might be ambition. You've been at sea for weeks, maybe longer. You're not sure anymore. The dates smeared on the old ticket stub in your pocket don't match the calendar on the wall of the customs office, and your boots hit the wooden dock like they're remembering how to be landbound. Everything feels slightly tilted, like the world hasn't decided yet if it's spinning or sinking. You've got 6 silver coins, a letter you never finished writing, and a jaw that clenches every time someone shouts in a language you don't know. You tell yourself this is the beginning. You even say it out loud once news start. A Chinese porter loading crates onto a rickshaw snorts in reply. You can't tell if he's laughing at you or if that's just how he breathes. There's an expression they use in Shanghai. Not the locals, but the ones who think they've figured the place out. This city runs on silk, silver, and lies. You're about to learn how true that is. The crowd around you swells and collapses in waves, coolies hauling crates of silk and salted fish, children with arms full of flowers and fingers full of someone else's wallet, missionaries, herding lost sailors toward churches with signs in 4 languages, and all of them wrong. You spot a man in a white linen suit and straw hat yelling at a Chinese woman who sells sugarcane. His accent is French. Her expression says she could gut him with a glance, but instead she just takes his coin and smiles like she's already spent it on his funeral. Everything feels urgent here, but also curiously slow, like the whole city is rushing towards something it has no intention of actually reaching. You pass a boy no older than 10 lighting incense outside a tea house with bars on the windows. He meets your eyes for a second too long, then turns away like he's seen the ending already and doesn't want to watch it again. You follow the crowd toward the edge of the wharf, where a line of carriages wait. You can't afford one, not yet, but you linger near them anyway, pretending to read a posted map in Chinese that might just be an ad for laundry soap. Your satchel grows heavier by the second. There's a woman smoking a pipe on the edge of a fruit cart. Her eyes are ringed in black and red like she hasn't blinked in years. She watches the crowd the way an old cat watches pigeons, disinterested but aware. The smoke from her pipe is thick and sweet. You try not to stare, but the smell slides into your nose like silk dipped in molasses. You'll remember that scent later. You'll chase it. For now, though, you keep walking. You pass a faded sign in English Victoria rooming house. Clean sheets, hot meals. No questions. You laugh out loud. It's the first joke you've heard all day, and no one's smiling. The building itself is 4 stories of peeling paint and hopeful windows. You choose it because you're too tired to keep looking, and because something about it feels just desperate enough to accept you. The room costs more than it should. The landlady has the voice of someone who used to be kind. She hands you a key and warns you not to drink from the green jug in the hall, no explanation. The mattress sinks in the middle like someone died on it recently. The wallpaper peels in strips long enough to suggest messages, or maybe just mold. There's a cracked mirror and a basin that hasn't been empty since last Tuesday. Still, you call it home. For now. An old Shanghai saying, if the walls don't whisper, the roof will listen. You lie down. Your boots still on, your satchel still unopened. and you stare at the ceiling listening to footsteps above you and arguments below, and you wonder not for the last time what exactly you've come here looking for. The ceiling doesn't answer. Old age wisdom fact. They say if you fall asleep in a new city without locking the door, the city will adopt you or eat you. It depends on the city. Quirky off-topic fact. The seagulls in Shanghai supposedly learned to mimic the sound of ship bells to trick sailors into dropping food. You haven't seen it, but you believe it. Academic debate phrase. Scholars disagree on whether Shanghai's rapid development in the late 19th century represented a colonial success or an economic metastasis. You're leaning toward the latter, mostly because you're already feeling ill. The next morning, the city smells like it's already sweating. You open the window, and the air hits you like a wall of broth, thick with coal smoke fish oil, and something that might be perfume, or something that might be formaldehyde. Either way, it burns your eyes and clings to your shirt. You step outside into the street, and it's like you never slept. The city doesn't reset, it just keeps going. The same carts rattle past, the same beggars nod without hope, the same foreign soldiers lounge against lampposts with rifles they haven't cleaned and smiles they haven't earned. You notice the city in layers now. There's the part you see buildings, crowds, rickshaws. And then there's the part underneath, running like water beneath the street stones. Tension, profit, decay. The international settlement does its best impression of London if London had been dropped into a wok and left there too long. There are street names like Queen's Road and Church Lane, and they're printed on signs in English, French, Chinese, and occasionally wrong. The buildings are squat, brick-fronted things that try hard to seem important, but their shutters sag like they're tired of pretending. You wander without purpose, which is a mistake here. Shanghai is the kind of place where standing still means you've either lost your way or your wallet. A British man bumps into you and doesn't apologize. A Chinese man sells boiled eggs from a cart and offers you one with a grin that makes you uneasy. You take it anyway. It tastes like sulfur and fortune. You pass a newspaper vendor shouting headlines, mostly lies, or exaggerations about uprisings and tea tariffs. One sheet catches your eye, a small notice about an overdose in a public bathhouse. It doesn't even make the front page, just a footnote like a weather update. 1 dead. Authorities say, no foul play. Opium suspected. No one around you seems to react. A man died, and the world shrugged. There's a strange comfort in that. You keep moving, not because you know where to go, but because not moving feels like surrender. You walk into the French concession by accident, realize it only when the sycamore trees appear, and everyone suddenly looks more amused and less employed. The French have a way of colonizing that makes everything look like a party and a funeral at the same time. The buildings have balconies no one uses, and wine glasses no one washes. You pass a man playing violin under a red awning. The song is beautiful. He's not very good. And then you notice the smell. Not the usual stew of sweat and fuel, but something sweeter, like honey on fire. You turn toward it without meaning to. A narrow alley opens beside a noodle shop. The doorway at the end of it is framed with red lanterns. There's a curtain of glass beads that catch the sunlight and bounce it into your eyes like tiny judgmental mirrors. You hear music from inside, but it's more rhythm than melody. A soft, wet thrum like someone breathing through a flute underwater. You're not here for that, you remind yourself. You're just curious. That's all. A traveler observing local customs. A student of architecture, perhaps. You definitely don't cross the alley. You don't pause in front of the beads. You don't touch them just to feel their coolness slide across your knuckles like an invitation. But you do. A voice from inside murmurs something. You don't understand the words, but you understand the tone. It's not calling you. It's expecting you. You step back. You're not ready. Not yet. Your head's still full of the sound of seagulls and bad sleep. Your coat is damp from your own sweat. You have errands, maybe, or appointments you didn't make. You walk away. slowly. Like a man leaving behind a meal he can still smell. That afternoon, you sit in a tea stall and try to write a letter. To who you're not sure. Maybe yourself. Maybe someone you forgot to miss. You start with Shanghai is not what I expected, and then realize you never knew what you expected to begin with. The paper stays mostly blank. You fold it and pocket it like a receipt. A woman sits beside you, uninvited. Her eyes are heavy-lidded, her accent hard to place. She asks if you're new. You say nothing. She laughs like she already knows. Be careful, she says, sipping her tea. Some of the rooms here don't have windows. And you'll forget that's strange. She stands, drops a silver coin on your table, more than enough to cover your drink, and walks away without looking back. You watch her go, then realize you never saw her blink. That night, you return to your room. You wash your face in cold water that smells faintly of rust and lilies. The streets are louder than before, or maybe your ears are just more tuned to chaos. Someone shouts about betrayal. Someone sings in a language that sounds like prayer. Someone nearby is either giving birth or dying. You can't tell which from the sound. You lie on the mattress and try to remember the last time you slept through the night. You can't. You don't dream anymore. Just drift. Before sleep takes you, a question stirs in your brain. What's the price of silence in a city that never stops talking? You don't answer. The city does, with another puff of sweet smoke curling in through your window. Old age wisdom fact. In southern China, the elderly used to say, if you can't hear your own thoughts, you're in the wrong place or the wrong body. Quirky off-topic fact. A local legend claims there's a river eel in the Suzhou Creek that's over 100 years old and can read minds. No one's caught it, or maybe no one wants to. Academic debate phrase. Some historians argue the concessions created opportunity. Others more credibly call them legalized theft zones with better architecture. Your room is smaller than it was yesterday. Or maybe the walls are just leaning in, bored of being ignored. The ceiling has water damage in a shape that looks like a cracked egg or a continent no one has claimed yet. You watch it for hours trying to convince yourself you're just resting, not wasting. But the truth stares back. You're running out of silver and fast. The city doesn't care. Shanghai rewards motion, not meaning. People who pause are marked by mold, by hunger, by that damp smell of being left behind. You try to look busy. You walk loops around neighborhoods you can't afford to enter and linger outside shops that won't let you in. You scan bulletin boards for job notices only to realize they're in languages you can't read or offer wages that won't feed a bird, much less a man. You end up in a different boarding house every few days, not because you're moving up, but because the mold is moving faster. The landlords barely look at you anymore. You hand them coins and get keys in return. No conversation, no expectations, no curiosity. You start to blend in with the scenery. The other foreigners look through you like you're a fogged-up window. The locals stare at your shoes, calculating whether they're worth stealing yet. One night, your room floods. Not dramatically, just enough to soak the edge of your blanket and ruin a perfectly good lie-in. You curse softly, shove everything you own into your satchel, and move again. You don't even ask for your deposit back. You know better now. You land in a place called the Lark, though no birds have been heard there in years. The room smells like boiled cabbage and ashtrays. The man who runs it has a scar on his cheek that looks like it once had a name. He doesn't offer it. You don't ask. The wallpaper is green. You pretend that's a good sign. You take stock of your life one morning. 3 shirts, 2 pairs of socks, 1 with holes, 1 dull razor, and a pocket watch that ticks loudly when no one's listening. You used to have ambitions. Now you have inventory. You begin telling yourself you're just passing through. You use the phrase on yourself like a bandage. This is temporary. I'll leave soon. You say it as you pay rent again, as you buy soup with the last coin from a country you barely remember living in. That's when you first hear about the pipe. You're not looking for it. It finds you. You're at a gambling den, or rather watching from the edge of one, when a man leans over and says, "There's an easier way to lose." His breath smells like cinnamon and something more dangerous. You laugh politely. He doesn't. He tells you about a place with red lanterns and soft mats, about a thing that makes your bones feel like melted gold. He doesn't mention the cost. You don't ask. The next day, you walk by the alley with the bead curtain again. This time, you don't linger. You tell yourself it's a coincidence. You lie easily now. That evening, you spot a man on your street who wasn't there before. He sits on the stoop smoking something from a small pipe shaped like a flute. His eyes are closed. He isn't smiling, but he isn't frowning either. He looks finished, not content, not peaceful, just done. You recognize that feeling. It's the one you've been carrying since the docks. You sleep badly that night. The dreams are foggy. Someone's laughing behind a curtain. Someone else is calling your name. Except it's not your name. But you answer anyway. In the morning, you're out of money. Again. You trade your last cufflinks for a bowl of rice and some pickled greens. They taste like salt and shame. You ask about work and get directions to a warehouse near the river. You haul crates for 4 hours and get paid in cash that feels hot in your hand. You don't spend it on food. Instead, you walk slowly, deliberately toward the alley. The lanterns are lit. The beads shimmer. The curtain breathes. You don't go inside, not yet. But you touch the door frame like you're making a deal. Later, at a tavern, someone tells you a story. A young man came to Shanghai to study architecture. Within a year, he was living in a box and selling his books page by page. When he died, he still carried his diploma. The paper was soaked in opium resin. No one laughed. You go home and stare at your ceiling again. The water stain now looks like a skull. You name it tomorrow. Old age wisdom fact: elder Shanghai residents used to say, if your feet don't itch by morning, you're either dead or dreaming of somewhere else. Quirky off-topic fact: the British once imported thousands of bricks from London to pave Shanghai's streets because they thought Chinese bricks were too emotional. Whatever that means. Academic debate phrase. Some socio-economic analyses have argued that the presence of foreign-run housing dramatically accelerated both urban sprawl and the erosion of local identity. It doesn't happen all at once. No one becomes an addict in a day, not even in Shanghai. It's a slower kind of collapse, like a bridge rotting from the inside. You walk across it every day thinking it's sturdy, until one morning it just isn't. You tell yourself it's just curiosity. You've been here long enough to know the difference between danger and drama, and the din with the red lanterns seems more like the latter. Quiet music, soft shoes, no shouting, no threats. It's the most peaceful building on the block, and that makes it suspicious. You're not planning to smoke. You just want to see what it's like. A look, a peek, an anthropological tour of someone else's ruin. You step inside. The air folds around you like velvet left too long in a drawer. Thick, musty, fragrant. Not unpleasant, just wrong in the way too much perfume becomes unsettling. It smells like flowers and something beneath that. Something older. The room is dim lit only by oil lamps hung low like moons made of honey. The shadows sway gently as if breathing with the patrons. You count at least 10 figures all reclined, some murmuring, some completely still. No one looks up when you enter. No one welcomes you. That's your first warning. A man with a face like melted wax gestures silently toward a cushion. You hesitate, but your legs move like they know more than your brain does. You sit. It's softer than you expect. The man prepares the pipe. You tell him you're just here to watch. He doesn't nod. He doesn't speak. He just starts rolling a dark little pearl between his fingers. It glistens over the flame and sizzles faintly when he places it in the bowl. He offers it. You hold up a hand. Just watching you say again. Your voice sounds distant, like it belongs to someone across the room. He doesn't take offense. He just sets the pipe beside you and waits. You watch the others. Some are barely conscious. One woman exhales a ribbon of smoke that curls into a shape so perfect you forget what you were thinking. A man beside her is staring at the ceiling like it's whispering secrets only he can hear. No one looks miserable. No one looks happy. They just look paused. You reach for the pipe. Not because you've decided to, because you didn't decide not to. You bring it to your lips, and the man lights it without ceremony. The first draw is bitter, thick, like drinking from a puddle made of dreams. It coats your throat, and you almost cough but don't. You swallow instead. The heat settles into your chest like a warm stone. You wait for something to happen. At first, nothing does. Then everything shifts a little sideways. The room slows. Not in a dramatic way, just enough that you notice the beat of your own heart for the first time in days. You blink and the shadows blink back. You exhale. It feels like letting go of a memory you never liked anyway. You don't remember lying down. But suddenly you're on your side, one hand draped over your stomach like you're protecting something you already lost. Your body feels far away, not numb exactly, just unconcerned. You understand now what they meant when they said the pipe erases the sharp parts. For a few minutes or hours, you're not sure everything becomes tolerable. Not good, not joyful, just smooth. The hunger, the sweat, the whisper of failure that's been sitting in your chest since you arrived in Shanghai, it all goes quiet. You could get used to this. You tell yourself you won't. That's the first lie. The second lie comes the next morning when you tell yourself it wasn't really smoking. Just testing, observing, participating in culture maybe. A tourist experience. But later when your stomach twists and your fingers won't stop trembling, you catch yourself walking past the alley again. Slower this time. Expectant. You don't go in. Not yet. Instead, you sit on a bench near the docks and watch the river. The boats move like ghosts, heavy with cargo that never gets inspected. You know what's in some of those crates. You know who it's meant for. You tell yourself that's not you. You don't need it. You just want to forget something small. One bad day, one missed meal, one cough you haven't been able to shake. You light a cigarette instead. It tastes like paper and shame. A boy walks by selling candied plums. You remember being young, briefly. Then the craving comes again. Not loud, not painful. Just a soft little knock behind your ribs. You press your hand against your chest like you're swearing loyalty to something. And in a way you are. That night you dream of birds. They're flying in circles over the Bund, calling your name in the voice of your mother. You wake up with the taste of ash in your mouth. The pipe is calling. You say no. That's the third lie. Old age wisdom fact. In Cantonese, there's a proverb. The second bowl of tea is never for thirst. Meaning we rarely repeat things for practical reasons. Quirky off-topic fact. A German doctor in 1870 claimed opium could cure melancholia, arthritis, and the female mood. He died of liver failure. Irony lives rent-free in Shanghai. Academic debate phrase. Contemporary medical historians remain divided over whether the early framing of opium as medicine delayed or accelerated its global abuse. You go back. You don't plan it. You don't even dress for it. One moment you're walking to the market for rice, and the next you're standing in front of the curtain again, your hand already reaching for the beads like they owe you something. Inside, everything is exactly as it was. That's part of the seduction, unchanging, familiar, soft-edged comfort. The world outside churns like a broken engine, but in here the lamplight never flickers, and the shadows never raise their voices. The man with the melted wax face is still there. You think he might be the owner, or maybe just the only one sober enough to operate a flame. He doesn't greet you, just nods and gestures toward your cushion, the same one. You wonder if it misses you. This time there's no hesitation. You take the pipe like it's been waiting. The ball is already prepared, hot, tar black, glistening. You inhale deeply. And it's easier now. No coughing, no nerves. The heat curls into your chest like an apology. You let your head fall back. The ceiling breathes with you. Your spine forgets to hold itself up. The last few coins in your pocket could fall out and you wouldn't notice or care. You understand the rhythm now. Inhale, forget. Exhale, forgive. Repeat. A man near you is whispering something, numbers maybe, or prayers. His hands twitch like he's playing an invisible piano. A woman 2 cots down is humming an old lullaby in Shanghainese. You don't know the words, but the sadness in them makes perfect sense. The pipe comes around again. You don't remember asking for it. You take it anyway. Later, the den shifts shape. Or you do. Time unzips itself. You blink and hours pass like dust on silk. Someone new enters. Someone old disappears. No one cries. No one cheers. Everything just continues. You stay until your back aches from lying still, until your tongue feels like cloth, until your vision comes back in soft little clicks like an old camera lens adjusting to light. Outside the sun is setting, or rising, or maybe it's just pretending. You step into the street like you've forgotten how feet work. The world is too loud, too fast, too real. A carriage nearly runs you over and the driver shouts something in English, or German, or rage. You don't flinch. You're floating. You tell yourself this will be the last time. That's the fourth lie. The next time you're broke. Your last coins went into a pipe and came out as an afternoon you can't remember. You pawn your watch, the one your grandfather gave your father who never gave it to you. You stole it from his nightstand before leaving Liverpool. The pawnbroker doesn't care about the sentiment. He gives you enough for 3 bowls of rice, a tin of dried fish, and one more evening in velvet shadow. You skip the rice and go straight to the den. Your stomach growls all night. The pipe doesn't care. You feel it more this time, not just in your body, but in the space around you. The smoke holds you, not like a lover, more like a mother who doesn't care what you've done as long as you're quiet and still. You dream while awake, of rivers that don't flood, of fathers who write letters, of streets that smell like bread instead of coal. You wake with a tear in the corner of your eye and no idea where it came from. The wax-faced man hands you a bowl of water. You drink it like it's the most precious thing in the world. You walk home barefoot because you lost your shoes. You don't remember how. Someone laughs at you from a balcony. You smile like you're in on the joke. Old age wisdom fact. There's a saying among elder Chinese porters, only fools run in a city that walks on bribes. Quirky, off-topic fact. In the 19th century, Shanghai had an actual noon bell that rang to mark siesta hour. Most foreigners ignored it. The Chinese did not. Academic debate phrase. Economists have long debated whether the opium trade's profitability outweighed its human cost, though those who debate it rarely smell like the den. You don't remember when the pipe became your calendar. It's not days or nights anymore. It's sessions. Burns. The small clack of ceramic against brass. The rhythm of preparation, the soft sizzle as the opium pearl toasts and melts. That's time now. That's your clock. You stop measuring your life in meals or conversations. Your hunger is different. It's quieter. It doesn't complain as loudly as it used to. Neither do you. You keep a small pouch of coins now separate from anything else. It's not for food or rent or laundry. It's for smoke. You protect it the way a priest guards relics. Your faith is a hollow tube filled with fire. The den becomes your second room. The first one, the real room with the sagging mattress and moldy windows, is just where you go when your heart beats too hard or your back starts to spasm. You sleep better at the den anyway. You don't talk as much anymore. People ask your name and you hesitate. Not because you've forgotten it, but because it feels like it doesn't belong to you now. Like you're borrowing someone else's story and haven't finished reading it yet. Your letters home stop. You were never consistent with them, but now even the idea feels absurd. What would you say? Dear Mother, Shanghai is beautiful, especially when I can't feel my hands. I've traded ambition for numbness, and I can't remember why that feels like a loss. You start forgetting things. Small things at first. What you were doing 5 minutes ago, where you left your jacket, whether you ate that day. Then bigger things. Names, reasons, faces you once trusted. You lose a whole day once. You walk out of the den thinking it's Thursday. It's Sunday. The landlady tells you your room's been rented. You don't argue. You don't remember when you last paid her. You sleep in the alley behind a noodle shop that steams at night and smells like star anise and rats. You don't mind. The pipe softens everything, even the cold, even the shame. You start hearing voices, not sinister ones, just familiar. A teacher you had once, a girl you danced with once, a version of yourself who used to laugh more easily. The voices don't say anything useful, but they stay. The people at the den recognize you now. You get nods, even a few half smiles. You don't know their names. You've never spoken, but you know how they inhale. You recognize their sighs. There's a man who always brings a handkerchief embroidered with tulips. He smokes with it draped over his mouth. There's a woman who always lights her pipe twice, even though it never goes out. There's a boy, 15 maybe, who smokes with the focus of a monk, like it's the only thing keeping him from floating away. And there's you, still telling yourself you're in control, that you're choosing this. You hear someone say it once, it's just a tool. Helps me think. You repeat that to yourself as your fingernails start to yellow. You look in a mirror one morning, cracked, smeared, and you barely recognize the man staring back. He's gaunt, greasy, hollow-eyed. His teeth are dark at the corners. His lips dry and split. You tilt your head, smile. He doesn't smile back. You put the mirror face down. You've stopped planning anything. You don't write things down. You don't schedule meetings. You don't even pretend anymore that this is a phase. The future is something that happens to other people now. You are not in time. You are near it. Sometimes you wake in strange places. Once in a rickshaw with a broken wheel. Once in a boat that had already started drifting. You make it back to the den every time. Not because you're smart, because your body remembers the way. There's a cat that lives on the stoop now. Gray, ragged, it never comes inside, it just watches, like it knows how this ends and wants to be the first to say, "I told you so." You try to pet it, it hisses, you laugh, and for a moment you remember what it was like to care if something hissed at you. Then the pipe comes again, and the memory melts like sugar in hot tea. Old age wisdom fact. A man who forgets his own name should not hold a lantern. Old Shanghai proverb, originally about sailors, now applied more broadly to anyone teetering on the edge. Quirky off-topic fact: opium dens in the French concession were taxed as recreational lounges in municipal records. The paperwork called the product imported bomb, academic debate phrase. It is academically contested whether opium's spread through colonial cities like Shanghai was due to market inevitability or deliberate structural sabotage. The city keeps moving. It just doesn't wait for you anymore. You sit on a stone step near Nanking Road and watch life unfurl like a parade you forgot you were once marching in. Rickshaws rattle by bells, ringing like it's still morning, even when it's clearly not. Hawkers shout prices over one another. Children run between carts, chasing kites made of paper and string. Everyone is going somewhere, and you're drifting, not quite invisible, just unimportant. The world doesn't look back at you. That's the scariest part. Not the smoke in your lungs, not the cramp in your gut, but the realization that you could stand in the middle of the street and no one would ask why. Shanghai has its own rhythm, and you are no longer part of it. You try to eat a half-burnt bun from a cart you used to visit every morning. The vendor doesn't recognize you. He gives you the wrong change. You don't correct him. It's strange how fast people forget you when you stop offering anything useful. You pass a British constable shouting at a Chinese clerk over some paperwork gone missing. The clerk bows once, then again, his voice tight like a wire. The constable sneers. You keep walking. You used to care about things like fairness. Now you're more interested in shade. You make it to the Bund just as the mist starts to lift. Ships come and go slow and tired, their flags half-hearted. Some carry silk, others weapons. Most carry opium. Not officially, but you can almost smell it before it docks. That faint bitterness like flowers rotting in the sun. You sit on a bench beside an old man playing erhu, his fingers stiff but persistent. The melody is cracked and lovely. He doesn't look at you, but he nods once when your knee starts to shake in time with the music. You wonder briefly what you'll become if this continues. Not in the distant future, tomorrow, next week. Will you still be able to hold the pipe yourself? Will anyone care if you can't? You catch your reflection in a window. Your shirt is torn under the arm. Your collar is crusted with something you hope is soup. Your face is pale, but worse than that, your eyes look like they've already left the building. You start coughing. Not politely, not discreetly. A wet, racking cough that draws glances. Someone nearby says something in German. You catch the word crank. Sick. They're not wrong. You spit into the gutter. Blood. Just a little. You wipe your mouth and tell yourself it's nothing. That's the fifth lie. You try not to go to the den that night. You pace instead. Up and down the same 3 streets like you're hoping they'll lead somewhere new if you just squint hard enough. They don't. You end up in front of the alley again, heartbeat doing its slow percussion behind your ribs. The beads clink in the wind. You step inside like a man stepping back into a dream he promised never to revisit. The wax-faced man doesn't greet you anymore. Just hands you the pipe like it's a spoon in a soup kitchen. No ceremony. No surprise. You're not a guest here. You're furniture. The smoke tastes sharper now. Or maybe your tongue is raw. You can't tell. You lie back waiting for the silence. It doesn't come right away. Instead, your head fills with static, like a broken radio flipping between regrets and echoes. You see your father's face, then your landlord's. Then a girl you once met in a church in Boston who said you had kind eyes. You exhale and hope they go away. Eventually they do. And then the stillness arrives. Smooth blank quiet. It wraps you up and tucks you in like no one else ever did. You stay there longer than usual. You don't move when the pipe is passed again. You don't blink when someone steps over you. You've joined the wallpaper. When you finally leave, the sun is rising and you've forgotten what month it is. The streets are cleaner than you remember. Or maybe you're just seeing less. Either way, you walk slower now. The city has moved on without you. Old age wisdom fact. There's a rural proverb in Jiangsu province. A man who walks too slowly behind his own shadow is already a ghost. Quirky off-topic fact. Some European cartographers in the 19th century labeled parts of Shanghai as unclaimed chaos on their maps, mostly to avoid explaining whose fault it was. Academic debate phrase. Cultural theorists argue that the addict in colonial literature often serves as a metaphor for empire's own moral decay, though others suggest that's giving both too much credit. By now, you've started to understand something you couldn't see before. The city isn't broken. It's working exactly the way it was designed. Shanghai isn't a failure of systems. It is the system. A living machine built to extract, convert, and discard people, goods, dreams. You're just another cog that cracked under pressure, but the gears still turn. You see it most clearly in the trade houses. Tall buildings with clean ledgers and dirty hands. Names etched in marble: St. George Shipping, Harman and Kober Far East Export Syndicate. They sound like banks, but they move narcotics as easily as they move cotton. You walk past one of these buildings one afternoon, trying not to look like a man who smells like opium and regret. A clerk drops a crate. You see the label, Tea Assam. but it's wrapped too tight, too thick. It doesn't smell like tea. You know what's inside. Opium shipped in bricks, hidden in crates, taxed at docks, passed hand to hand with signatures and nods. All legal, all protected. The police guard the shipments. The customs officers wave them through. The smugglers wear tailored suits. You start to laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's perfect. You hunched and shaking in a den with your lungs full of smoke, and somewhere across the city, a man in a white suit is lighting a cigar paid for by your collapse. And he doesn't even know your name. You hear people talk about the opium problem like it's a disease, a plague that just happened, like it floated in on the wind. But you know better now. This wasn't an accident, it was a strategy. The British East India Company grew the poppies in Bengal. The Chinese were the market. The ships ran like veins between them. And you're just the red in someone else's accounting book. Even the reformers are caught in it. You hear about them sometimes, Chinese officials trying to ban the stuff, shut down the dens, tax the foreign merchants into submission. They're brave, noble, already doomed. You see one dragged from a meeting house shouting about national dignity. He's beaten by men who speak fluent English but wear Chinese uniforms. You don't know who gave the orders. You don't have to. The empire doesn't care how it gets paid. Just that it does. You stop sleeping in your old room. Not that it was yours, really. Someone else has moved in. A younger man. Cleaner nails. You hear him through the wall once whistling. He stops when you cough. You're back at the den most nights. Sometimes during the day, too. You lose the difference. The pipe always finds your lips. Even when you don't ask. The wax-faced man knows your rhythm. You don't speak anymore. You don't need to. The den isn't full. It's steady. People come. People go. No one arrives with both shoes and leaves with both dignity and breath. The regulars are familiar. The same coughs, the same twitches. You know them like old furniture. You try to count how many times you've come here. You stop at 30. Not because you're done, but because counting implies you plan to stop. You don't. You can't. You're still telling yourself that you're in control, though. That's the sixth lie. One morning, or is it night, you notice something. The way the wax-faced man hands the pipe to some people faster. The way he sets extra cushions for others. The way the nice bowls of kanji go to the men who still carry coin. There's a hierarchy here. It isn't based on language, or race, or age. It's based on value. You are no longer valuable. You've smoked too much, talked too little, paid too slowly. They don't toss you out, but they don't wait on you anymore either. A younger addict takes your usual cushion. He doesn't even look at you. You don't protest. Instead, you crouch beside the rear curtain, the place where people lie a little longer, where the mats are thinner, the smoke thicker, the silence heavier. No one tells you to go there, but you do. The wax-faced man doesn't stop you. He just looks at you with the kind of sadness people usually reserve for dead birds and rotting fruit. You lie down, and for the first time, you wonder if you'll get back up. Old age wisdom fact. The rich smoke to remember less. The poor smoke to feel nothing at all. A phrase repeated often among elderly porters on the Huangpu docks. Quirky off-topic fact. Some Chinese tailors reportedly lined coats with scraps of British newspapers, not for insulation, but to remind their wearers who owned the cold. Academic debate phrase. Political historians contend that colonial addiction economies functioned less as byproducts of trade and more as instruments of governance through entropy. You don't vanish in a single breath. You erode. The den teaches you how. At first, it was a place you went to. Now it's where you are, and everything else is where you go from. The outside world feels fictional, loud, sharp, too colorful. But here the lights are soft. The corners are rounded. The hours don't bite. You start to recognize the real regulars. Not the ones who show up 3 times a week like it's a bad habit they're still pretending they can manage. No, the ones who sleep in the corners, curled like question marks, who no longer react when someone steps over their legs or drops a bowl. The ones who cough without flinching. The ones who haven't stood up in days. You start sleeping among them. It's not a decision, it's just where there's space. The front mats are taken, and the back ones don't ask for anything except stillness. You find your own blanket. You don't remember where it came from, only that it smells like mildew and quiet. You keep your shoes under your mat. Not because you're going anywhere, but because someone might take them. You don't plan to run. You just don't want to walk barefoot to your own funeral. The others don't speak much. Some don't speak at all. You hear murmurs, names, apology stories, told in half languages, but no conversations. Conversation implies expectation. Here there's only breath and heat and the soft, metallic clink of pipes being passed. One man beside you always hums. A single note never changing. You think it's a hymn, or a memory, or maybe just his way of keeping something inside him from breaking loose. You stop trying to figure it out. One night, maybe it's day, you wake and the pipe is already in your hand. You didn't reach for it. Someone gave it to you. Or maybe you took it while asleep. It doesn't matter anymore. You light it without looking. The smoke curls like a finger brushing your face. You can't remember what it feels like to be sober. You try once. You leave the den, stumble into the street. The light stabs your eyes. A breeze lifts your collar and feels like broken glass. You hear voices, English, Shanghainese, German, and each one sounds like someone dragging a chair across stone. You last 8 minutes. You come back shivering, and you don't even pretend to hesitate before lying down. The wax-faced man looks at you. He doesn't smile. He just gives you the pipe and walks away. You tell yourself this is just a low point, that you'll climb out of it. That's the 7th lie. You start noticing the ghosts. Not literal ones, though. Sometimes it's hard to tell. No, these ghosts still breathe. Technically, their chests rise and fall, but their eyes don't blink anymore. Their mouths hang open. Their limbs move only when prodded. You sleep beside one. You don't know his name. You call him Mr. Salt because he always asks for salt with his kanji even though there's none left. He talks in his sleep. Names, places, bits of sea shanties. You once hear him recite the Lord's Prayer backward. You think about asking if he's okay. But then one day he's gone. Not moved. Gone. His mat is clean. His blanket folded. Someone else is sleeping there within hours. You don't ask what happened. You know better now. That's what the den teaches you, how to vanish without notice. How to become someone else's story without even earning a sentence. You start to forget the order of things. Wake, pipe, eat, pipe, sleep, pipe. You dream of stairs that go nowhere. You dream of a city made entirely of velvet. You dream of a voice whispering that you are not real. You don't correct it. You wake with your arm asleep and your mouth dry as cotton. You reach for the pipe before you even open your eyes. That's not a habit. That's religion. Old age wisdom fact. The body doesn't rot all at once. It asks politely first. A dark saying once whispered in temples near old Chinese plague houses, now muttered by old women near the ports. Quirky off-topic fact. In the early 1880s, French missionaries in Shanghai issued tracts claiming opium made the soul too sleepy to sin. Distribution stopped after the bishop tried it himself. Academic debate phrase. Social historians debate whether dens function more as places of refuge or tools of colonial containment, a dichotomy blurred by economic complicity. Not because of some grand realization, not because you're strong, but because your money runs out. The coins are gone and the favors are spent. Your shoes are already gone. Your belt follows. You even trade the brass buttons off your coat one at a time. The man who takes them smiles as he pockets them like he's won something important. You tell yourself this is it, that if you can make it through 1 week, you'll be clean. That's the eighth lie. The first day feels like walking through wet rope. Everything is heavy. Your spine aches in a new, personal way. You sweat through your shirt and then your skin. Your jaw clenches. You shake. You feel hollow and full at the same time, as if something is crawling around your ribs looking for a way out. You don't sleep. You lie in a new room, cheaper, meaner, and watch the mold creep down the walls like it's alive. It whispers to you. You don't understand the words, but you nod anyway. By the second day, you can't keep food down. By the third, you're seeing things. Not the romantic kind of hallucinations, no floating candles or tragic apparitions. No, you see shapes move just at the edge of your vision. You feel ants under your skin. You hear the creak of the den's floorboards even when you're blocks away. You feel the smoke in your lungs even though it's not there. Your body has forgotten how to want anything else. You try wrapping your arms around yourself. It doesn't help. You shake so hard, your teeth chatter. You consider punching the wall just to feel something different. Instead, you vomit, then cry. You don't know which came first. On the fourth day, you walk outside just to walk. You last 5 blocks before collapsing in an alley behind a print shop. The smell of ink makes you gag. A girl finds you, maybe 10 years old. She pokes you with a stick, then offers a rice cake. You try to thank her, but your mouth doesn't work. She backs away slowly, and you realize you look like what you are, a man unraveling. You sit there for hours, maybe days. You think about water, about bread, about home. You think about the first time you held the pipe, how it felt like peace. And you think about the silence afterward. That's what you miss most. Not the high, not the smoke. The silence, the soft, numbing hush where your body didn't ache and your thoughts didn't bite. The noise of living has come back, and it's unbearable. You tell yourself just one more time, just to get through the night. That's the 9th lie. By the 5th day, someone finds you, not a friend. The dealer, you didn't send for him, but he knows. They always know. Like crows. He kneels beside you and holds the pipe like a priest offering absolution. His smile is thin, not cruel, just inevitable. You hesitate, maybe half a second, then you take it. You don't even care if there's money owed. You inhale, and your body sighs in relief so loud it feels like a scream. The pain fades. The hunger softens. The shame curls into a quiet corner of your gut and waits its turn. You lie back and tell yourself it's only this once, just until you're strong enough to quit properly. That's the 10th lie, and maybe the most convincing one yet. Old age wisdom fact: no man escapes his vices. He only trades them for quieter ones, often quoted by elder tea sellers near opium checkpoints after seeing hundreds relapse. Quirky off-topic fact: colonial doctors once prescribed small daily opium balls to pregnant women to prevent hysteria. Some of those women outlived their own children who didn't. Academic debate phrase. The discourse surrounding relapse tends to obscure the structural inevitabilities built into addiction economies, particularly those involving colonial enforcement. You're not even pretending anymore. You don't dress for the street. You don't brush your teeth. You don't shave. The mirror cracked weeks ago, and you didn't bother replacing it. You don't need it. You already know what's there: a hollow face and the shell of a man who once thought he could outthink a drug built by an empire. You've stopped trying to balance anything. There's no work, no letters, no rent. The world is a blur, and you're a smudge in the corner of it. The den doesn't kick you out. It doesn't have to. You fade into the background slowly, like old wallpaper curling in humid air. No one says your name. You can't remember if they ever did. You lie in the far corner now. where the smoke hangs lower and the lamps are mostly burned out. You've stopped waiting for a pipe, you simply reach when it comes, like an old dog lifting its head when the food bowl clinks. The others here are just like you, quiet, still, waiting for something they stopped believing would come. A few try to make conversation. You nod, offer a grunt, maybe a syllable. But the words aren't the point. The silence is. That sweet, heavy blankness that only comes after the third draw. That moment when your blood slows and your spine sighs and the thoughts melt down to a whisper. That's what you're after. Every time. One night, or maybe morning, you hear a scuffle near the entrance. Raised voices, heavy boots. A soldier, drunk, white, American maybe. He's shouting about someone stealing from his bag, waving a pistol. The wax-faced man doesn't flinch, just stands with his arms behind his back like he's seen this before. The soldier leaves, no one is shot. But after that, things shift. The den stops serving kanji. The curtains stay closed longer. The pipe takes longer to arrive. You're not sure why. You only know it feels colder, like the room's been stripped of something invisible. You think about leaving once. You get as far as the alley. Then your knees give out and you lean against the wall, breathing like someone's been running you for hours. You crawl back in. No one asks why. No one helps you lie down. That's when you notice the section. A stretch of the den curtained off more heavily. The mats thinner. The people quieter, if they move at all. You weren't supposed to end up there. But one day your usual cushion is gone, taken by someone who still has silver. You're too tired to argue, too weak to stand for long. So you shuffle toward the back. The wax-faced man sees you. He doesn't stop you. He just turns away. That's how you know. The air is thicker back here. Everything smells stronger. Sweat, mildew, something metallic. You try not to breathe too deeply, but you always do. You still want the smoke even now. The others in this section don't talk. Some don't move. You lie beside a man who rocks gently side to side. His eyes open and close without rhythm. His lips move, but no sound comes out. He's been here longer than you can tell. That night someone dies. Not loudly. There's no gasp, no cry. Just a quiet cessation. The breath stops. The limbs stiffen. A blanket is pulled up. No one pauses. No one comments. Later, 2 men carry the body out the back, wrapped in a mat. Like a rug, like a package. You don't ask where they take him. You already know. Your skin itches constantly. Your joints swell. You stop feeling your toes. Your stomach bloats from whatever it is they fed you yesterday. Maybe the day before, maybe not at all. You sleep more now, not because you're tired, because waking hurts more than it used to. You dream of water, of cool hands, of voices that knew how to say your name gently. You wake with tears on your cheeks. You tell yourself it's just sweat. That's the 11th lie, old age wisdom fact. If a man lies still too long, even the rats forget to fear him. A quiet observation once scribbled in the margins of a 19th century undertaker's logbook in Shanghai. Quirky off-topic fact. Some opium dens hired boys whose sole job was to gently shake addicts awake once every few hours to keep them from dying and ruining the mood. Academic debate phrase. Late-stage addiction environments challenge the binary between care and abandonment, creating liminal zones where survival is functionally indistinguishable from decay. The dreams get stranger. Sometimes they're vivid streets that loop back on themselves, clocks that tick backward, your father in a green robe offering you tea that smells like the sea. Other times they're just colors and heat. But always when you wake, it's the same. The smell of the den, the ache in your spine, the soft sounds of other bodies failing in tandem. You're not scared anymore. Fear takes energy. You don't have much of that left. There's no more hunger, not really. Your stomach has learned to stop asking. When food comes, you chew slowly like it's someone else's responsibility. Most days, you don't even finish it. Your weight drops. Your ribs start to show. You stop sweating. That's when you know something's shifted inside you. Something essential, like your body has stopped negotiating and started preparing. There's a woman a few mats down who used to sing. Nothing grand, just little hums, mostly lullabies. One day she stops. You realize it only because the silence feels sharper without her. Later that week, you watch the wax-faced man carry her out. She's still breathing, but her head hangs at the wrong angle. Her hand dangles in the air like she's waving goodbye to someone no one else can see. No one replaces her mat. You think that's strange until you realize there's no point. She won't be coming back. You start to feel it in your bones. A creak, a grind. Every shift, every cough feels like someone scraping your joints with a spoon. Your skin is loose now. Your nails are discolored. You develop a sore on your hip where the mat rubs against you. You don't bother covering it. There's no one here to impress. The attendants still bring the pipe, but less often now. Not out of cruelty, just indifference. You're not profitable. You don't tip. You don't speak. You're becoming one of the silent ones, the watchers, the waited out. You think about the first time you came here, how cautious you were, how alert. You thought the den was a dangerous place. Now it's just a room with thin walls and thick air, like the inside of a closed throat. You begin to hallucinate. Again, but it's different now. You see people who aren't there. A man in a blue suit standing in the doorway. A child with a handful of white flowers crouched by your mat. Once you see your mother, she says nothing, just watches. Her mouth drawn into a line so thin it could slice you. You try to speak to her. You can't. Your jaw doesn't work the way it used to. You try to smile. She disappears. A fly lands on your lip. You don't bother to brush it away. The man next to you coughs for 2 full minutes. A deep, wet sound that ends in something you hope is not blood. He rolls to his side and goes quiet. You hear someone near the door say another one. They're not talking about you. Yet. Sometimes you feel lucid. You sit up. You drink water. You look around and think I could leave. But then the pipe comes again, and you remember why you haven't. Because without it, the pain comes rushing back. Not just the ache in your joints, but the weight of everything. Every lie. Every wasted coin. Every face you've forgotten that once called you by name. The pipe keeps it all quiet, even now. Especially now, there are whispers even in this room. Some say there's a new crackdown coming, that the French authorities want to shut down the dens, that someone important's son was found dead in the gutter, and it's causing trouble. You hear this with half a brain. You wonder if they'll shut this place down before or after you're gone. You hope it's after. You wouldn't survive the noise outside anymore. Even the idea of street sounds makes your jaw clench. One morning, maybe it rains. You hear it tapping softly on the tin roof, or maybe it's just another hallucination. Either way, it's the gentlest sound you've heard in days. And for a moment you cry, not loudly, not even visibly, just a few hot tears that run down the side of your face and soak into your collar. No one notices, which is just as well. You don't want witnesses anymore. Old age wisdom fact. The soul leaves quietly through the lungs, some Taoist elders say, which is either poetry or prophecy, depending on how long you've been lying in the back corner. Quirky off-topic fact. Some dens played phonograph recordings of waves or birdsong to soothe dying patrons. The machines often broke. No one fixed them. Academic debate phrase. Modern scholars argue whether late-stage opium dependency represents a form of agency through surrender or merely the most final kind of structural entrapment. It gets harder to move. You don't notice it at first because you're barely moving at all, but one day you shift your leg and it doesn't respond the way it should. It drags. A second later, like it's deciding whether or not to obey you. Your fingers, too. They've gone stiff. Yellow at the tips like someone dipped them in tea. You cough more now. Not a full chest-rattling cough. Those are gone. This new one is softer, shallower, the kind of cough that doesn't want to disturb anyone. It just slips out like a sigh from behind a curtain. You try to eat something one morning, rice maybe, or porridge. It tastes like linen. You chew and still can't swallow. You spit it out. No one watches. You could starve right here, and not a soul would notice until you stopped blocking someone's mat. The wax-faced man comes by less often now. You see his shadow sometimes long and stretched against the lamplight. He still nods occasionally. Not a greeting, more like a habit. Or a prayer he's long since stopped believing in. He looks older. Maybe he always did. Or maybe you just never noticed the cracks. You think about writing a letter. To who, you're not sure. There's no family left who would read it. But part of you wants to explain it to someone, anyone, that you didn't mean for it to end like this, that you were clever once, capable, that there were plans. You try to find paper. There's none. And even if there was, you doubt your hands could hold a pen now. Still, you compose the letter in your head. It starts, "Dear whoever finds me, I didn't mean to disappear. It just kept getting easier." You never finish it. A new man joins the back section, fresh but broken in different ways. A tremble in his jaw, a scar along his wrist. His eyes dart around like they're still looking for an exit. You know that stage. You pity him. He lies down across from you, wraps himself in a coat 2 sizes too big. He asks your name. You open your mouth, but it sticks. You try again, nothing. He nods like he understands. He doesn't. But it was kind of him to pretend. The days or nights blur again. You try to mark time by how often the pipe comes. It doesn't help. It feels more random now. Sometimes twice in an hour. Sometimes once a day. Sometimes not at all. You don't mind. You've stopped needing the high. You just want the quiet that follows it. That velvet hush. That sacred blankness. It's the only peace left. One night you hear something new. Laughter. Not the desperate kind. Not the kind that bursts out after a good pipe. Real laughter. Light. Full. You roll toward it slowly. It's the new man. The one with the big coat. He's dreaming maybe. Or remembering. You feel something pull in your chest. Not envy exactly. More like distance. That sound feels like it belongs to a different species. One that still expects things from the world. You drift again, but this time it's deeper. Not sleep. Not quite dreaming. You feel your body grow distant like you're watching it from across a river. Sounds fade. Colors smear. Time loosens its grip. You hear footsteps. A voice, but it's muffled. You try to turn your head. You can't. You don't panic. You just let go. Because by now you understand. There's a place past the den, a deeper room. You're almost there. You're almost gone. Old age wisdom fact. When the body stops arguing, the soul prepares to leave. Spoken by a silent order monk in Yunnan who tended to the dying during epidemics. Quirky off-topic fact. In a few rare opium dens, dying addicts were placed under canopies scented with citrus peels to create the illusion of spring at the moment of death. Academic debate phrase. Death within opium dens complicates colonial narratives of moral collapse, instead raising ethical questions about dignity, silence, and the spatial choreography of abandonment. You wake up and you're not alone. That's the first thing you notice. The second is that the room is quieter than usual. Not the good kind of quiet. The kind that feels like something important just left. There's a man standing over you. Chinese early middle-aged suit, too clean for this part of town. He's holding something in his hand, a notebook maybe, or a folded newspaper. You can't see clearly. He's speaking to someone behind him. You can't hear the words. Everything feels like it's underwater. Then he crouches down. He looks at you the way a doctor looks at a patient who's already decided not to recover. He doesn't ask your name. He doesn't have to. You're not a person to him. You're a case, a fact, a statistic. You try to speak, nothing comes out. Not even a whisper. Your throat feels like paper. He reaches into his coat and places a small square of something on the ground beside you. You blink. Once. Twice. It's a card. You can't read it, but you know what it says. Charity. Burial. Collection. It means you're almost there. You're now someone a government office or a mission charity will handle. When the den stops being able to, you are post-utility, a category between body and memory. Later minutes, hours, you feel a breeze. Not a wind, but something gentle, brushing your face. You open your eyes. The curtain near the den's rear door is moving. Someone's left it open, or maybe they're coming to get you. You listen. No footsteps. Just that same hum of the pipe being passed, the bubbling sound of one more inhale, one more escape. You lie there motionless, and you realize you no longer feel your feet. You flex your toes. Nothing. You try to lift your hand. It twitches, barely, but it costs more energy than you have. So you stop. And it's not surrender. It's acceptance. You spend the next stretch hour, day, eternity in a kind of lucid fog. You hear everything, but it's all muted. The wax-faced man arguing softly with someone about rations. A younger addict sobbing into a pillow made from bundled cloth. A cat maybe somewhere outside the den, crying. Your own heartbeat slowing just enough that you start counting between beats. You wonder what you'll see when it finally stops. Not heaven, not fire, just nothing. A clean break. A silence so deep it erases every version of you that ever tried to claw their way back. Someone lays a blanket over you. It smells faintly of lemon. Not the fruit lemon soap. Industrial. From a laundry somewhere uptown. You take one shallow breath. It's enough. You sleep, not to escape, not to forget, but because your body no longer has anything else to say. Old age wisdom fact. When the limbs forget how to lie, the heart forgets how to fight. A phrase inscribed above the door of an abandoned rest home near Suzhou. Quirky off-topic fact. In certain low-caste funeral traditions, the dying were wrapped in newspapers from the day of their birth, symbolizing a full circle. Most didn't survive long enough to read the headlines. Academic debate phrase. The concept of social disappearance reaches its terminus in late-stage addiction, where personhood is not simply erased, but preemptively grieved by the system that exploited it. You're not sure how long it's been. You wake, but only halfway. Like a curtain has been drawn over your mind, and someone forgot to tie it back. Light filters through in slivers. Memories, half-thoughts, a song from childhood you didn't know you remembered. You're aware of your breath. Slow, uncertain. You can hear the pipe again, bubbling soft, somewhere nearby. But no one hands it to you. You realize slowly that they've stopped offering. Not out of cruelty, just practicality. There's no point anymore. You won't get better. You're not getting worse. You're just done. Someone speaks your name. You haven't heard it in weeks, maybe months. It startles you. It doesn't come from a familiar voice. It comes from outside your head. That alone makes it rare. You try to turn. You can't. You try to blink more than once in a row. It takes effort. Whoever said your name, they're gone now. Or maybe they were never here. Your mind is drifting again. Thin like a thread being pulled slowly from cloth. You dream one final time. You're walking along a riverbank. Shoes dry. Sky pale. There's a boat waiting. Empty. The kind used by ferrymen in stories told to children when they ask about death. You don't get in. You just watch the water. The river moves like silk. There are no sounds. No regrets. No pain. Just air and shadow and the taste of nothing on your tongue. You sit by the bank. The boat doesn't rush you. And that somehow feels like kindness. You don't wake up again. Not fully. The breath comes softer, lighter, like it's trying not to disturb the others. The wax-faced man comes, checks your pulse, says nothing. No one weeps. A sheet is pulled. A name is written on a small piece of wood. Incorrect spelling. Doesn't matter. They carry you out the back. The mat is cleaned. Another body takes your place before sunset. And outside, Shanghai continues. The factories breathe smoke. The docks echo with whistles and labor chants. The white-suited men in upper-floor clubs sip tea over ledgers built on rot. The addicts come, the addicts go. The city swallows them all. One cough at a time. Old age wisdom fact. A quiet death in a crowded room is the rarest mercy, passed down among dockside hospice nurses who've seen too many go alone in louder places. Quirky, off-topic fact. In some Shanghai opium dens, if a man died with silver still in his pocket, the money was considered cursed and used to pay for incense, never wages. Academic debate phrase. Death in colonial addiction spaces reflects less an individual endpoint and more a systemic footnote proof of a structure too efficient to mourn its debris. So here we are, at the edge of silence. If you've made it this far, I want you to pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Picture the last room we were in, the dim den, the way the smoke curled up toward the ceiling and disappeared, the slow breath of someone slipping beyond pain, that hush you felt in your chest, not fear, not even sadness, just stillness, final and full. That's where we'll leave him. He was no hero, no villain, just a man who arrived in Shanghai with dreams and left with nothing but silence. Not even a name remembered correctly. But his story, his unraveling matters, even if the city never paused for him. Even if the system that fed him the poison also wrote his disappearance into its margins. And maybe, just maybe, in telling it slowly, gently, with all the ache and quiet honesty it deserves, we've done something rare. We remembered someone who was supposed to be forgotten. So now, as the smoke fades and the room goes quiet again, I invite you to drift. There's nothing more to chase tonight. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts quiet. Let the story become distance, far enough that it can't hurt you, close enough that you remember what it meant. Good night wherever you are. You're not alone. You're still here, and that matters more than you know.